Kacey Nady's passion for volleyball led her from the small town of Yuma, Arizona to the rise of national prominence in Eugene, Oregon. A decorated middle for the Ducks, Kacey guided her team to 4 years of NCAA playoffs. A return to the desert showcased her love for sand as she played a pivotal role with the top-ranked Wildcats. Join me, Charles Wollin, for an inside perspective on our new assistant volleyball coach as she continues to challenge herself in a new role. Kacey, thanks so much for sitting down with us today after a couple months here on the Hilltop. How has everything been going? How's the journey been?
I didn't have a lot of expectations, but I guess if I had some, they'd be well exceeded. I think it's because of the people, not only the rest of the coaches that I work with, but in the athletic department. People are so supportive and caring and kind, very genuine. I think it's really hard to find genuine people. Joan is a huge support for us, and she's been nothing but great. Linda has been awesome with helping us get ready for season. Frank is a very kind and I like to praise Frank with how much he listens, because I wish I listened more. And then I've been getting to know the girls, and so we've had lots of interactions, individual, group interactions, and I feel like I know them really well just over the course of, I'd say, like a month and a half. So I feel really good about it and just really blessed to be here.
Let's talk about your childhood, your upbringing. You're from Southern Arizona, Yuma, Arizona, and then you moved to San Diego, a city that you love, to play club ball, and then into Oregon right away. A very interesting transition. And you said somebody adopted you in San Diego for a little bit just so you could play at a high level and then be able to play collegiately.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate to have a coach in high school that took us to the Arizona camp going into my sophomore year. And I didn't know that existed because Yuma is kind of in a bubble. It's 3 hours from Phoenix and 2.5 from San Diego. So you don't really grow up knowing that there's a lot of competitive clubs, leagues, et cetera out there. So I went to the U of A camp, and then once I saw this team camp in 2010, I was like, wow, this is amazing. There has to be something like an individual camp. And I know most people are like, duh, of course there's individual camps, but I never knew this. And so we went to the team camp again going into 2011, and then at that team camp followed the individual camp, and Dave Rubio saw me. He pulled me aside and he said, hey Kacey, what club do you play for? And I was like, I don't know what that is. Can you explain it to me? He's like, well, you need to play club in order to get a college scholarship. Do you want to play in college? And I was like, yes, but I really don't think I need to play club. Here I am, 16 years old, right, acting like I know everything. So on July 20th of 2011,
very date specific,
you'll see this, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna come into play. July 20th of 2011, my mom and I sat down in his office, and he said, just talked to my mom about the potential, et cetera. And he said, you have two options. You can move to Phoenix or San Diego. I chose San Diego, and then he offered 2 high schools of people that he knew. One was public, one was private, so I chose the public one. And then he offered 2 clubs, and one was called Coast, and one was called Epic, and we just asked which one was more elite, and he said Coast. So we went up to San Diego the following week, checked out the high school, went to my dad's best friend's house, and then asked just if we could I could live there, and they said yes. And then met with Ojan, who's the club director of Coast, and then I had like a tryout type thing, and I moved to San Diego within 2 weeks. I had to move by myself because my mom couldn't just pick up and leave with her job. So I was really fortunate to be able to do that my mom let me, et cetera. So then going into my senior year, I was talking to the Oregon coaches, went up for camp on July 20th of 2012. I committed to Oregon. So it was exactly on the date, not a coincidence. Definitely God has guided my path in my life, and it's just been amazing.
You signed for Oregon the year that they went to the national championship and lost to Texas, and then you came into Oregon. What was the expectation going in that you saw, hey, we were in the national championship just the year before I got here?
Right.
What was that extra little level of pressure for you like?
I feel like the team as a whole definitely had higher expectations because we only went to the second round of the tournament. We actually went to Nebraska and lost to Nebraska in the second round. which is a crazy experience. So it was very, very fun to be in.
What was crazy about it?
I don't know exactly how many fans are in there, and I'm not, I would say like 10,000, and they all have synchronized cheers for blocks, for aces, for everything together. Everyone's wearing almost probably the same shirt. The crowd was completely sold out. That atmosphere was one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever played in my entire life. Thankfully, sophomore year was a little bit better, going to Sweet 16, but we lost to North Carolina at the Sweet 16 in Minnesota. Yeah, my goal every year is to win a national championship. I don't know if it was unrealistic or anything, but yeah, I think it was tough, like everyone getting on the same page, but the teams, yeah, we were very, very talented, I would say, every year.
Can you discuss what it's like playing indoor volleyball and then transitioning to play on the beach side, which is somewhat of a newer sport collegiately? I
really liked it because it wasn't a constant the entire year. Like, I think that beach and indoor are two completely different sports. Some people may relate them and say that they're very similar. Unless you play them, then I think you would know. But they're so different, and the practice, just obviously the atmosphere. So the cons of living in Oregon, where we had come back to play beach, so it was the first year, the inaugural year was 2014 year. So that was my freshman year. So it was really cool being part of the very first beach volleyball team at Oregon. I definitely wish I was a little more competitive and didn't take those practices for granted. So the cons of living in Oregon, 8 a.m. practices, sometimes it was hailing, sometimes, no joke, 32 degrees, raining. So we were just getting after it and just taking it, whatever came our way. Sometimes couldn't even see the ball, passing it back and forth, hitting. So anyway, it was tough, but we actually didn't practice that much in the sand. But it was still, like, we had a beach season, and it was really fun, and just to travel and compete.
Then you transitioned and made it full circle back to Arizona. You transferred to the University of Arizona, where Dave Rubio initially saw you to play your final year at beach.
Yeah.
Obviously a little sunnier, clearly, right?
That's one of the factors that definitely went into it. So it was really nice. My senior year when I decided to play beach, I knew I really wanted to because I wanted to transfer to a school that was more competitive. I loved my college experience, and I love the team aspect. I didn't want it to stop. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna use this year. I'm gonna not play beach for my senior year for Oregon. I'm gonna go play somewhere. And so I got my release, I wanna say in January, and that same day I texted Steve Walker, who was Dave Rubio's assistant at Arizona when I was in camp. And we had talked over the years because he became the head of the beach program, and he was actually recruiting some of the partners I played with in high school. So I saw him a lot, and I texted him, I was like, hey Steve, I really want to play for you. Do you have a spot? And then within like 12 hours of getting my release, and I had committed to Steve, and what was really awesome was that my mom still lived there. I had a half scholarship, but it was almost a full ride because of the in-state from my mom. So that was really great that she still lived there, because otherwise I don't think it would have worked out.
So switching gears a little bit, want to chat about coaching. I also want to talk about your family and talk about the coaches that you've had. A lot of them mainly male role models. Your father played football, your cousin played in the major leagues, but sports always running in the family.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So my dad played football at SMU in the 70s. Before, it was like when they're winning a lot, before the death penalty. He told me a lot of stories about that. That was entertaining. I grew up with my cousin playing on tons of MLB teams. He played for the Padres, which was great in the beginning. So we went to San Diego all the time and to support him. He won 2 World Series, one with the Giants, full circle again.
There it is.
And the Yankees. And he also lived in San Diego, so I would see him and his family a lot. He's such a great guy. So yeah, I'm really thankful to have them for sure.
You know, I know it's important to you to be a female that's strong and wants to be able to bring this program into fruition as that strong female leader. And, you know, for folks that are tuning in that don't know this, is there's never been a female head coach that's won an NCAA volleyball title. And so tell us a little bit more kind of what's important to you there.
So in this female sport, it's amazing that there's never been a female coach that's won a championship. I would love to be the first one. That's my goal in life. I spoke to Mary Wise actually in about March, and I met her for the first time. She's a great lady, really thankful to have met her. And I told her my goal, and she was like, no, I hope that I'm the first one. Once I win it, then you can. And so I'm pulling for her every single year. She went to the championship within the last couple of years. I don't know, it just never comes to fruition, unfortunately. That would be a dream. I think that the NCAA is lacking a lot of females. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's just the inequality with just the standard of male and female roles, etc. But it's definitely a need. It's not a want, but it's for sure a need of the NCAA. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to start coaching, but to me, it's not even about males and females. I just knew as a person, taking gender out of it, that I am driven, I'm passionate. It's definitely the word to describe me best. And I wanted to help, and I wanted to help young females in this really crucial time in their lives to mold them into better people. And I really thought I could help with obviously X's and O's, but I think it's more than that. I think it's about building a relationship, and I think as a female, they trust you because I can relate a lot to what they're going through. And so it is my goal to be the first female, but I just know myself as a person, and it's just, I can help. This is my dream, and let's do it.
Let's talk about USF.
Okay.
Let's talk about the program here. And it's been a little dormant, and there's been some coaching changes, and the West Coast Conference is pretty dominant alongside, the Pac-12 as well. You've got the Pepperdines and the BYUs. What's it going to take for USF to get over the hump to end this decade-long streak of not being in an NCAA tournament?
Right. So what it's going to take is a new culture, but Frank has already implemented it and is doing a great job. Like, you can have talent, that's going to take you, but if your culture is not established and you're not holding each other accountable, you're not supporting each other, you don't have pillars, you don't have a direction, clear vision, goals, etc., and the coaches aren't doing this, you're never going to be successful. And also having girls that want to be a part of that and want to grow the program and leave their mark and know that this process when they come in is not going to be easy, that it's going to be challenging and probably is going to be the hardest thing they've ever done with all of the things we expect from them. But at the very end, the reward is going to be much greater because the process and the challenge was so difficult that at the end it's like, what's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? And then at the very end of it, you feel so much better about it as opposed to something that came easy to you. So it's the same thing. We want those girls that want to come in to leave their mark and like to be pushed and are just gritty. It's one of the best words we can explain it as, is if they have grit and they put the team first, that's, I think, would make the difference, no matter what their talent is.
I'm going to throw a couple things at you here. 2018 was the so-called Year of the Woman. We live in a very interesting political climate at this time. And given the fact that you're now in San Francisco, more of a traditionally progressive city, being at the University of San Francisco, changing the world from here, what would your message be to young girls who are looking at you and seeing you as an assistant coach and hearing you talk about you wanted to be the first woman to win an NCAA tournament?
I would say set a goal, and I love to dream big and to not stop until you have it. I've always been that. My mom always knew once I got something in my mind, it wasn't going away until it happened. I wanted to coach in college. I actually realized this not too long ago, and I'm really blessed that it already came to fruition, but I worked really hard in order to be in this spot. Definitely it's helped to know certain people, but at the same time, it's good to set these goals that are sometimes unrealistic because then you're challenging yourself, right? And it doesn't really matter what gender you are. I just say you're a person, and whatever the world thinks, I don't really care what a lot of people think, and that's something I think that sets me apart. And so I just look at as equal, no matter what it is and who I'm talking to. Definitely respect a lot of people who've come before me. Like, I know I have a lot to learn, and I'll make that clear. Like, I have so much to learn, and I'm excited for it. But you have to be super ambitious and and not stop and challenge what the stereotypes are, and someone's got to do it, right?